As things are heading up high towards the 15th edition of the BRICS Summit in South Africa, rising questions remain such as, can a united BRICS nations overhaul the global economy system of trade using the dollar as its major currency? Why is the 15th BRICS Summit attracting lots of attention from even non-BRICS nations? How will this affect the global financial landscape of economies? Can BRICS get more countries, including non-BRICS nations, participate and give their votes to the Dedollarisation campaign that can weaken the use of the dollar and euro dominance over the years? These and more will be yours in today's report and latest happenings around the globe. Before we delve into it, welcome to Cracked Info, where we bring you latest news and updates on economics, geopolitical issues, and tech news. Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe as a means of promoting what we do. With the eagerness of many to see how the growing influence of the BRICS Summit could exert much influence on de-dollarization, reshape the international monetary system, and cause and shift from dollar use to the use of a BRICS currency. The BRICS nations coming together in recent years has no doubt emerged as a powerful bloc that's gradually but increasingly exerting so much economic influence that's not just challenging the existing Western financial economic system of marketing, but creating a tense and promising atmosphere with regards to the global landscape and financial climate in the world. Following the approach of the BRICS Summit slated for August this year, countries that aren't a part of the bloc have expressed their interests in participating, acknowledging the importance and impart of this gathering, not minimizing the potential impact it could have on their economies. As one major agenda at the summit is the key focus of de-dollarization, which targets the reduction of independence by almost all countries of the world on one dominated currency to the detriment of their own local currencies. The United States of America has by their dollar exerted so much dominance over many countries of the world, as it has been a long concern in international trade and finance. This gives the U.S. so much influence over global economic affairs, something the BRICS is out to change and rebalance power from the West to the empowerment of other countries in the world, as it believes the world is changing and there is need for other nations to rise to places of power and influence when it comes to economics, trading, and finance. This move has attracted lots of nations applying to join the BRICS nations in a bid to see its agenda a dream come true. The BRICS notion of de-dollarization seeks to create a more equitable and multipolar financial system that reflects the changing dynamics of the world economy. Voters are doing all to abandon the dollar for a multipolar financial system, a shift that has had non-BRICS nations getting involved in the de-dollarization discussions only demonstrates the growing demand and need for diversification from the dollar to a new currency that can define the economic financial landscape of the world. Ever since the abolition of the gold standard, the U.S. dollar has dominated international trade. Will the coordinated attempts from the BRICS countries end the dollar hegemony? Every night, I ask myself why all countries have to base their trade on the dollar. Why can't we do trade based on our own currencies? Those were the words passionately spoken by the Brazilian President Lula during a recent state visit to China, symbolically in front of the new development bank in Shanghai, also known as the BRICS Bank. Brazil's president is not the only BRICS leader to contemplate a disruption to the dollar hegemony. Increasingly, it's being asked if BRICS can de-dollarize the global financial system. During Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow in March, Vladimir Putin suggested that the yuan should be adopted for trade between Russia and Asian, African, and Latin American countries. Xi Jinping, whose global ambition has long been challenging U.S. dominance, is pushing through deals linked to the yuan. Recently, trade with Saudi Arabia, Brazil, and even France has been carried out in yuan. The BRICS 5 has numbers to back up their recent display of currency confidence. An historical news story that was covered more in the media of BRICS countries than in the G7 countries is that the BRICS countries combined now contribute more to the global economy than the G7 countries. The BRICS 5 account for 31.5% of the global GDP, while the G7 countries contribute 30% of the GDP. The movement from the West towards a potential de-dollarization happens now for a number of reasons. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is a driver of a lot of change on the global scene. The American sanctions against Russia, especially the sanctions on SWIFT, is by many observers seen as a weaponization of the dollar. According to analysts, using the dollar as a political instrument is likely to accelerate a move already underway by many countries to diversify investments into alternative currencies. With its war in Ukraine and the subsequent sanctions, Russia tries to avoid trading in U.S. dollars and euros, which are viewed as toxic currencies. even if they're unable to avoid the currencies altogether. This move alone by Russia, counted as one of the superpower countries, is a big threat to the West, especially following its association and a major player in the BRICS bloc. The perceived weaponization of the dollar has been a factor in a myriad of trade deals between countries from Asia, South America, and the Middle East. Among them are India and Malaysia's agreement to trade in the Indian rupee and Brazil and China's to trade in their own currencies. Partnerships are being formed and strengthened across BRICS, while BRICS countries, especially China, are strengthening relations with developing countries. This happens while the U.S. is increasingly losing support in developing countries. According to a 2022 study from the Center for the Future of Democracy, for the first time ever, more people in developing countries are slightly more favorable towards China, 62%, than towards the United States, 61%. While that doesn't necessarily reflect the politics of leaders of the world's developing countries, it reflects that we're moving from a unipolar to a multipolar world, not just financially, but also politically and culturally. Ever since the launch of the 15th edition of the summit, more and more nations keep seeking to apply to be part of BRICS. A recent was the news of Macron seeking to get an invite at the upcoming BRICS summit, a nation of the G7, with the attraction of non-BRICS members voting for the Dedollarisation increasing by the days. With these countries representing diverse regions and economies, view the BRICS summit as a platform to voice their concerns and contribute to the shaping of a new world order. If we would exemplify with a country like Bangladesh, a country with a fast-growing economy has expressed its interest to become part of BRICS. Bangladesh sees this alliance as a potential place offering opportunities for trade, investments, and development cooperation for its country and others. Bangladesh's participation in the summit aims at aligning its economic policies with those of the BRICS nations, while benefiting from their collective strength. Not limited to Bangladesh alone, other nations like Egypt, Jamaica, and Philippines have also expressed their desire to join the BRICS alliance. Their involvement in the summit signifies their desire to be part of a global financial group that challenges the existence of dominated power structures and allows for a more inclusive and rebalancing of power. Add to that none of the BRICS countries are interested in a unipolar world order with U.S. at the end of the table. They aim at dethroning the dollar to a multipolar system of trade involving many nations. China has enormous global ambitions. For a long time, Xi Jinping has displayed interest in accelerating the development from a unipolar to a multipolar world order. The movement towards a potential de-dollarization is a symbolic, practical, and financial advantage to strengthen that agenda. Vladimir Putin's Russia is still in a cold war with the U.S. Brazil's main trading partner in recent years is China. Let's have a look at the financial infrastructure that could dethrone the dominance of the dollar. While the discourse is full of drive to terminate the global dollar dominance, there's no currency ready to take its place. The yuan has its obvious drawbacks. Its potential in the global economy is severely limited by the fact that China doesn't have free movement of capital. The yuan only accounts for approximately 3% of the global currency reserves and international payments. Maybe that's the rationale behind the rumored new BRICS currency, tentatively named BRIC. Foreign Policy writes that Russia is spearheading the development of the new currency. India Times quotes Alexander Babakov, deputy chairman of Russia's State Duma, for saying that the BRICS countries are in the process of creating a new medium for payments. Further, India Times quotes Babakov for saying that the new currency is established on a strategy that does not defend the dollar or euro. The new currency is, according to the same source, going to be secured by gold and other valuables like rare earth elements. According to Babakov, there are plans to present the new currency at the BRICS summit, which will be held in Gauteng, South Africa, this August. Financial analyst Joseph W. Sullivan believes that if the BRICS used only the BRIC for international trade, they would remove an impediment that now thwarts their efforts to escape dollar hegemony. A BRICS currency, a BRIC, would be a logical next step to build on top of existing financial infrastructures. China has already created a SWIFT equivalent, the Cross-Border Interbank Payment System, CIPS, which was launched in 2015 to boost the international use of the Chinese currency in trade agreements. The banning of certain Russian banks from SWIFT has likely accelerated the expansion of CIPS. The BRICS countries also have their own development bank, the New Development Bank, often called the BRICS Development Bank. Since 2015, the New Development Bank has given loans for $33 billion, against the $67 billion that the World Bank has loaned out in the same period. Some may say this isn't the first time the dollar is facing hatred, and why will this current hatred survive towards determining the dollar? According to Jens Nordvig, a leading currency expert, the current wave of animosity towards the USD is neither the first or the last wave of dollar hatred. In the last few decades, the dollar dominance has survived a severe financial crisis, balance of payments deficit, a pandemic, and subsequent inflation. With some of the biggest economic players in the world allied against it, the question is if the dollar will survive the most recent round of dollar hatred. As we move from a unipolar to a multipolar world, will we also move to a multipolar currency world? According to experts in the field like Zoltan Pazar and the aforementioned Joseph W. Sullivan, the number of initiatives and the speed of the development is so substantial that the position of the dollar will be undermined. There might be no currency ready to dethrone the dollar as yet, but a number of initiatives and events, internal and external to the U.S., are shaking it. Now that the alliances have been carved out, the currency competition might become one of the determining factors for the world order of the 21st century. Who knows what more the 15th BRICS summit has in store for us, as one might not be fast enough to conclude they have at all what it is that the BRICS bloc have prepared on their agenda besides the dedollarisation discussions. While the BRICS summit holds the promise for dedollarization and the establishment of a new world order, it has not been without controversy, such as the debates and concerns following President Macron's desire to join the BRICS summit. The dedollarization efforts discussions are not mere theories or concepts, but have real-world implications. Dedollarization efforts seek to promote financial stability, reduce vulnerability to external shocks, reshape and strengthen economic sovereignty. This they intend to achieve by diversifying their reserve currency and exploring alternative payment systems. This will enable countries to safeguard themselves against the financial global system and manage the risks that are often associated with over-reliance on a single currency. In the aftermath of World War II, a system was instituted in which the U.S. dollar was tied to the value of gold, whilst other global currencies were pegged to the dollar. This transformed the U.S. dollar into the world's primary reserve currency, a position it has largely maintained since. The constant global demand for dollars gives the U.S. a number of benefits, including lower interest rates, as well as reducing inflation. Over a period, BRICS countries have come together to deliberate on important issues under the three pillars of political and security, economic and financial, and cultural and people-to-people exchanges. The 15th BRICS summit, set for August of 2023, has had its ministers express their full support to South Africa's BRICS chairship in 2023 under the theme BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development, and Inclusive Multilateralism. This is where we wrap things up for today. Thanks for stopping by, and stay tuned for more news and updates happening around the globe. We will be back soon.